92. That's the number of professional football clubs across the Premier League and football leagues here in the UK. These teams are very well known for their multicultural players on the pitch and diverse fan base. Over the years, there's been plenty of discussion as to why that same level of diversity has struggled to make its way into managerial roles. But no one's asking the real question. What about the people that are hiring them? So I wanted to find out why only 2 professional football clubs have someone of African and Caribbean descent employed onto their boards.
I think slowly but surely we're seeing a change, certainly in terms of ownerships of football clubs.
Yeah.
And that's becoming a little bit broader. I mean, it's no coincidence to me that I've been given my opportunity by an ethnic minority board, to be honest. But I think that's what's happening in football now. You know, we're seeing a load of different owners from different cultures coming in and owning football clubs in this country. And perhaps with that, we may get a change of mindset to the boardroom.
As far as the boardroom is concerned, I can only assume that black businessmen, it's not a sport that they've wanted to engage with, you know. In all honesty, that's all I can see. I don't see any other aspect other than that, really. So,
I mean, when you look throughout football, there's a real lack of diversity, full stop. Be that gender, race, disability, LGBT, as far as we know. So football has a real challenge in terms of addressing that. It becomes particularly uncomfortable when you look at the black community, because when you look at our progress, our representation on the pitch, so we have 1 in 3 professional footballers that is black. Because of that, it becomes quite glaring when we see a lack of representation in terms of management, in terms of in the boardroom. So in terms of why that is, I think it's a historical thing. I don't think we see black people as leaders in this country full stop. I think that goes across all sectors. And I think sport and football is particularly bad with that.
The career I've had and the status that has been given to me in terms of my footballing career certainly opened the way a little bit for me to get into the boardroom. I'd sort of like gone out of football and gone into the media side of things when I retired, then went back into football, and that just opened my eyes to this role. And then it was about trying to get an opportunity, and fortunately I was fortunate to get that opportunity.
I think it's important that you know, everyone, you know, recognises that there still exists, you know, a degree of prejudice in our society, you know, in many situations, and I think, you know, it's a question of recognising that, you know, and trying to embrace that, and trying to help overcome that problem.
Over 33% of players in the Premier League are black British, and that's almost double the amount from when the league started in 1992. Now, if you look at managerial roles, we can see the likes of Chris Hughton, Sol Campbell, Keith Curl, Chris Ramsey, all making their ways into managerial roles, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And I wanted to know whether, if that same level of diversity from the pitch entered the boardroom, will we see more black managers in the game?
The hirers and firers, you know, sort of the maybe the selection of, and this is maybe unconsciously, you know, they select in their own, you know, they hire and fire in their own image, and without, we feel that if the boardroom was more diverse, that would surely filter down to those who are at the operational end, which within our profession is managers, coaches, academy directors, sporting directors. But without a shadow of a doubt, if you get more diversity in the boardroom, you'll get more innovative thinking in terms of the hiring and firing.
When you see a player come to the end of his career, so you look at someone like Frank Lampard, you look at Steven Gerrard, you look at Mark Hughes, you look at you know, Steve Bruce, to name a few. They come to the end of their careers, they've had glittering careers, and people talk about, the media talk about how great a managers they'll become, or, you know, they show good signs to being good managers. You see Paul Ince come to the end of his career, you see John Barnes, you see Sol Campbell, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Les Ferdinand come to the end. No one talks about them being good managers. So it's just people's mindsets and the way they think, and I think as long as that's intrinsic in football, it'll affect the boardroom.
Lots of black players who have great careers as professional footballers, you know, do really, really well, you know, most of them, a lot of them make a lot of money, and some go on to coach, you know, and some go on to become managers. But you know, if you think about it, there's very few footballers who have gone on to invest in football clubs, you know, and to become directors and to become football club owners, you know.
In 2002, America's NFL introduced something called the Rooney Rule. This is something that the FA have been using since last year when hiring individuals for their England coaching roles. But the Premier League and other leagues in the UK are still yet to do so.
The Rooney Rule in layman's terms is essentially giving an opportunity for a person who is diverse to have an interview. So it's not a job. People often, you know, confuse this with, you know, you're going to give a job to a person because they're black, because they're a woman, because they're LGBT. No, you're going to give someone an opportunity to be interviewed, because that recognises that historically we have had a problem of systematic exclusion, where people haven't even been getting to the table for an interview. And therefore, those people aren't part of the system. I think the Rooney Rule would absolutely help, because it would bring process, number one. At the moment, if you want to be on the board of any football club across the country, you know, what is the process? Is there a process in place? I would argue that there probably isn't. There's an informal recruitment based on, oh, I think we need someone with skills around finance. And then they have a discussion around the table, and it's like, oh, well, we know Bob. Bob's great, and we all like Bob. So, yeah, Bob, should we invite Bob in? And I think it's as formal as that at the moment.
I also headed to Birmingham to find out more about the On The Board programme, an initiative run by Carl George, who strongly supports diversity and teaches individuals who work within football on and off the pitch, corporate governance and what it takes to be a board member.
Session and evaluation. Yes, On The Board's a programme that we developed some 4 years ago now, and it was really to help people who haven't got no experience in the boardroom but got a lot of other technical skills. What we decided we'd do is try and help them to get board positions. So the programme runs over about 6 months. We teach them about corporate governance, about what the roles and responsibilities are of a board member and what they need to do in the boardroom. And by giving them practical experience, by giving them scenarios that they can work that's very similar to what the boardroom is, we can take their grassroots experience plus the technical knowledge that we've given them and make them to effective ambassadors, or what we call an effective board member.
It's very beneficial, you know. Obviously from my position, I'm still currently playing, but you know, I'm at the stage of my career where I want to make sure once football's finished, you know, I can step into the, you know, the next chapter of my life, the next role that I want to try and go into.
It's definitely, you know, something that I didn't think, you know, much of it at first, but you know, going into it and we are now into a couple of sessions in, and it start making sense in terms of governance in my own club. You know, making decisions, doing the right thing, and I think, you know, I've done it wrong. I've done it wrong for a little while, and you know, being here has been very beneficial for me.
It's important to have people in positions of change, power, influence. Being a black female, so to state the obvious, there's not many black females within the game already. So there might be the smallest policy in place that might actually inhibit other females coming into position.
Boardrooms in any area and in any sector should be diverse. And it's not just a nice thing to do, it's the business case for diversity. It stops groupthink, it makes sure you're getting skills and experience from a number of areas. And it isn't just the colour of the skin, but it's diversity of perspective and background that helps to make decisions in the boardroom that are more effective.
I think we can see in terms of the boardroom, there's still a lot that needs to be done to create a more diverse workspace. But I think the real question is, how long will it take before we see that change in diversity impact football here in the UK and have boardrooms like this filled with fresh, new faces?